What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 28 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Mannfred von Carstein Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, we had ourselves a little bit of a ghostly supremacy, or I should say perhaps a Necrarch supremacy, as the Gustav Grigorovich full ghost army, as well as the Spellbreaker and Morngul army out here fought their battles and both came out very much ahead. We left off the last episode with the battles against the ogres coming in. Gorsty boy with his zombies, which will be more powerful now that they have various things that we didn't have last time we fought. And of course, Mannfred von Carstein with his dire wolves and his vargulfs, both of which should be pretty interesting. We do have to watch out in this army because the dire wolves are Scooby-Don'ts. It's a solid name, but anyway, these guys are not like Isabella's doggos, as in Vlad's army, who has them buffed to a pretty insane degree for a number of reasons, but also gives them the hunger, which makes them not nearly as fragile as they are here, so we'll have to be much more careful, and that we will. I think we'll start with Gorsty, because I've been itching to see these zombies perform with the drum and the buffs from the Vargulf. Of course, they won't have nearly as much damage as damage buffing zombie armies, but these guys will be much tankier, which is pretty interesting in and of itself. Anyway, we'll go for evasion here, and I guess we'll head directly on in. Grimtop / Greasy. Sorry, Greasy. And our relationship is improving, but, well, I've been meaning to fight some ogres, and we will do so, though we probably won't advance any further into the Mountains of Morn against Tamarkan, unless we spot Tamarkan's army directly. Then we need to, because we are very much at the end of the campaign. Anyway, oh, he's allied with the northern provinces. Do we care about this? I mean, technically they're friends, but we don't have any units from them because they were not willing to go for a vassal agreement with us. So frankly, if they want to face off against us and against the western provinces, let's just say it's their problem. And, oh, okay, that was too much deliberating because they didn't bother joining anyway. Alright, fair enough. Sorry, Goldtooth. It's time to Goldtooth. Anyway, Grimtop. Gorsty, close to feed casualties. I will see about that. War banner can go on. Frankly, there's nobody really here that would benefit too much from the war banner. I guess we'll put it on. Let's put it on the vampire. Why not? A little bit of weapon strength. Actually, yeah, she hits pretty darn hard. 672 weapons. Actually, she hits way harder than I thought she would. 672, damn, that's very solid. Well, somebody's gonna need to hit Mr. Goldtooth a few times. How fast is he, just out of curiosity? Okay, so he has only 14 move speed. And my own ogre campaign with the man-eaters, we got him moving as fast as cavalry with a strider, and it was pretty darn awesome. I was actually really enjoying using Greasus, which had never been the case prior, but alas, I don't think the AI is clever enough to hatch a scheme like that. But anyway, well, at least he does have pump harder, lads. So we'll see. Anyway, close to feed casualty side, we'll see. Go.
Now, go, my minions, onwards!
Buddy, you don't actually have to tell them anything. They're zombies. They're puppets. You don't need to give them a speech. They don't even have the spark of a soul. They're just corpses animated with dark magic. But anyway, maybe he doesn't need to know that. Here we go. Looks like we've got a fairly big old army under Greasus Goldtooth arrayed against us. The Lead Belchers will be a pretty major threat to pretty much anything in our own army, as they will sort of be able to do massive damage to blobs of zombies. That said, those blobs of zombies are very tanky, so I don't think we need to worry too much. Gorst has always been able to get a very nasty army going. And of course, we're not even using Mortis engines to make this army nastier, which we very much could, though of course Gorsty does have his own Mortis engine effect. Anyway, with the war drum up and running and bolstered defense, we have our zombies with 65 armor, 51 melee attack, and 27 melee defense, as well as immunity to contact effect and expert charge defense, which is pretty darn solid in addition to the 20% physical and 25% missile and 10% fire resistance as well. Plus that armor is likely to climb higher higher as soon as they get rank... as soon as they get rank 7, they'll get another 10% armor from the White Kings. Or 10 rather, not 10%, up to 75, which will make them even nastier. The only thing I find a little bit odd is that Gorst zombies, in terms of their weapon strength, are still fairly significantly weaker in terms of pure damage as compared to the zombies under Kadon von Senkenhof and our others. Oh wow, okay, piercing bolts of burning and burning head right through our zombie battle lines. Will do some damage, I'm sure. Let's see what we got here. This unit of zombies loses about, well, some of their number. We of course will heal them right back up, but still, good job to the AI for dropping blobs of spells into our blobs of zombies. And they're gonna follow that up with more, by the looks of it. I don't even know what that was. Huh. Some kind of cannon barrage? What was that? Who has that ability? Is that a Greasus thing? I have no idea what that was. Okay, I guess I gotta play... Huh. Is that everyone has their... No, it's no... Well, everyone has their prices up and running with the gold falling from the sky. That we've seen before, as the paymasters have the same thing, or at least a similar thing. Well, either way. They had some lovely little... Oh, wait, I know what that is. It was... Huh. I thought that was a camp ability. Or was that like a charge from a crusher? No, either way. I suppose it's not important, as just like the burning head, it didn't do too much damage. Anyway, as I was attempting to say before I got distracted by all the effects on field, the thing I find a little bit weird is that Gorst's zombie buffs don't include buffing their weapon strength to nearly the same degree as generic necromancer lords. With that, I think it was domineering trait that gives them plus 75% weapon strength, that, as we've seen, Kadon von Senkenhof starts with, I think, 40 or 45 weapon strength on zombies prior to any buffs, which is considerably harder hitting than the zombies available here. Of course, it's not a big deal because they are so much tankier under Gorst that, well... time on field, as in time not with units not destroyed, means you're able to still do more damage. But since his whole gimmick is zombies, it's just a little bit surprising. But I can see why it makes sense, otherwise all other zombie forces would not be able to have gimmicks of their own. And it is nice to have different sort of zombie-focused armies that function at least a little bit differently from each other. And Gorst, of course, being more likely to sort of sit there and absorb enemies, whereas we can charge directly and do a little bit more damage outright with the other army. Anyway, Greasy is facing off against Gorst here, and Greasy's down to about half HP, whacking away with his meat haunch and with the scepter of Titans here. Or is it Titan scepter? I always forget. I guess it doesn't really matter. What does matter, though, is his army is not having a particularly good time. The bounce power is at about 60% in our favor, and we managed to tie up all the enemy lead belchers. They were firing away at our zombies, and we had to use our vampire to land, summon some zombies, and start attacking them. Otherwise, it does look like at least a few of the enemy ogre bulls did attempt to get around our army and try to charge our drum, which is quite critical to us. And I'm still thinking about getting a second drum in here. We could buff the melee attack of all of these guys even further with a other drum effect, but the immunity to psychology and stuff is not as useful here. And with their weapon strength being rather low, it doesn't matter nearly as much as it does in the other army. I think once our vampire gets a high enough level to get that Dark Benediction thing up and running, which will give the Greater Aura Dark Benediction up and running as well, which will give the +5, I think it was, armor piercing to the entire zombie horde. And that'll be quite valuable, and that's why we put the vampire in this army. And once again, I also feel just like from a loreful perspective, it just feels appropriate to have an army, or to have a vampire in every single army. Or just being Mannfred's eyes and ears or something. Don't necessarily need the necromancers doing their thing unobserved. I'm sure Mannfred is wise to the nature of necromancers and betrayal and all that. There's a bit of a tendency there. And he probably might feel closer to them than he would to Vlad. What with Vlad being an honorable character, if Mannfred wasn't so superior and looks down on the necromancers so much. and just generally on immortal creatures. But anyway, it looks like Greasy is just about out of the picture. He was able to do decent bits of damage to Gorst and brought him down to about half HP, but Gorst simply outlasted him and healed right back. Oh, that's not Gorst, that's zombies. But anyway, healed right back up, and will continue to do so. The units of enemy bulls, and I think there was a unit of Iron Guts in here somewhere, that attempted to charge us failed to do so, and of course the enemy single entities have been chased down and will be continuing to be chased down by the Vargulfs here, which, although moving away from the zombies means they won't be able to provide their bonus melee attack to them, but it's alright. Our drum is still in the middle of all this, but it worked out well. The enemy wasn't able to gun it down either with the lead belchers or with the ogres with the ogre pistols, which would have been frankly fantastic for it, but I'm very wise or wary to the AI in doing that sort of thing. It has a tendency to target those drums, but I guess with the one benefit with having drums in the Vampire Count's armies is that unlike other armies, the AI seems to prioritize support units generally speaking, so it will target necromancers with corpse carts just as much as it targets drums, which means as long as we deploy the necromancers with corpse carts up ahead of the drum, and the drum doesn't get targeted nearly as much, and the necromancers with corpse carts, especially now, are a lot more difficult to deal with the various missile resistances, physical resistance, well, missile resistances and stuff that we've been giving to them. There we go, 55% missile resistance on that cart, plus the physical resistance and heals and the additional healing cap that they've got. It's all pretty good. Anyway, Greasy's army fails to stop the zombie horde, and a little bit of healing will probably ensure that we have very minimal damage done to us as well. Love it. Alrighty, very, very nice. They kept hitting us with their spells and abilities, and at the end of the day, the armored zombies certainly held and recovered pretty darn admirably. 17k seems to have been the sort of top of the damage for them, which is pretty darn solid. 36k for Gorsty, though admittedly he's not going to be super effective against things like ogres, but still pretty solid. Anyway, we'll occupy the place, I guess, since we're destroying him, and we'll get a little bit of extra income from the bonus tariffs from defeating Greasus. Income from tariffs plus 10%. Casualty, I guess carrion, fine, everybody gets carrion today. Storm of Necromancy, and good. Nazard, you're going to hit that, but Mukkel, you are going to hit Carrick Krakatan while you're here. I mean, why not? And this will be just an auto-resolve, especially since you have the... oh, you have a Lichbone Pennant. Interesting. You probably don't need that, but anyway, we'll occupy the place and keep the Nitro out. I don't think I have a better place to put it anyway. Little Nashy giggle. Anyway, Great Hall of Greasus is next on the menu. Mannfred von Carstein, I think you're the last thing that needs to move in. Ooh, Valiant Defeat, you say? That should be pretty interesting. They do have a lot of units. They are probably going to struggle against our Vargulfs, and I just realized they haven't gotten a Necromancer into this army yet. That is potentially a problem, because we will want at least one for Master of the Dead. Well, I'm gonna have to fight without it for now. Leadership Aura, let's pop it on the Vargulfs, as they're a little bit less likely to separate from the from each other, to some degree. But anyway, should be a fun fight again, and it's Nazard's debut. Go. Alright, here we go. Debut for our Hound Master, Mannfred von Carstein, his 6 Vargulfs, as well as his gigantic pile of dire doggos. The Vargulfs are, of course, all named Mittens, Fluffy, Snuggles, Manny's Petty, Chomper, and the Bastard of Barovia here. And, well, they are the sort of critical units of the army. Frankly, they'll probably be doing most of the work, if we're realistic about it. While the dogs are very very fun. They're also incredibly fragile, and even a basic unit of Ogre Bulls countercharging them will probably deal heavy enough damage to them to begin melting away, especially as they don't have the buffs that they would under Isabella. So we'll have to be very careful in the way that we use them. In the meantime, though, we'll drop some zombies upon the enemy blob and target the enemy tyrant in the center of the enemy camp, while our units of Vargulfs move in and start working on the first of the Ogre Bulls that they found. We are sort of sending the Vargulfs in packs of 3 to protect each other, but not in 6 in one single location, as they oh wow, they get knocked down a lot, but they get up again. You know? I'll stop making that joke someday. But anyway, they'll get up again just over and over again. I guess it's invincibility frames while they're down, so it doesn't matter over much, but I feel like they're getting knocked down a little bit much. Especially because mass-wise, these guys have got to be pretty built compared to the Ogres. 4,000 mass versus Ogre Bulls with 1,800. Huh? Interesting. Anyway, oh, did that Vargulf just get smacked as it was about to hit that ogre? Well, good job to the ogre. But anyway, in the meantime, our doggos are moving in, and we can see that their charges into the Nobblars at least tear plenty of Nobblars to shreds. But even as they do, various units of doggos rapidly lose HP. These, even with a single charge, lose about 30% or 35% of their number, and even the terrible melee lead belchers are able to knock out individual doggos. So all we can do is charge them in, deal a little bit of damage, and then charge on out, and then those units that shatter we obviously use to chase down, which is sort of the main purpose of them in this particular army. If they're not dealing with artillery and with enemy range units, they obviously can't fight enemy melee directly. Unlike Vlad and Isabella's units, which is why I was considering giving Vlad the Dire Pack, but it's not like he really needs it. And it's not like we can ferry the Dire Pack to him, so 10 turns not on field feels like a lot at this sort of late stage in the game, which is why I'm not, probably not gonna. I'll think about it. Anyway, a little bit of cycle charging action going on. The Dire Doggos backed out. The ones that were hurt the most got a little bit of healing, and then we charge back on in to tear through the enemy Nobblars and Hobgob mercenaries here. Another unit of lead belchers have arrived, as well as the rest of the enemy reinforcing army, which does mean we're going to have to back a lot of our now fairly heavily damaged doggos off in order to prevent them from getting ripped apart. Fortunately, the Vargulfs have dealt with the units that they were dealing with. The enemy tyrant, the first enemy tyrant, I should say, has by and large been defeated by Nozert. Together with the distraction of those zombies, and these guys have all been locked in place, waiting for the Vargulfs to arrive and start dishing out the damage. And also just collapsing all over the place. Too bad them collapsing doesn't dish out damage. Anyway, and the second... Oh, this is not a tyrant, this is a bruiser. The bruiser looks like he's holding back the Vargulfs, and damn, bruiser is big. Just out of curiosity, I can select the bruiser. 2.6k. Well, it's still not nearly as much as a Vargulf, but yeah, he's a big boy. Anyway, let's check back on how the doggos are doing. It looks like another charge and right into the... Oh, wow. Boglars of the Mad Marshes here. 50 and 44 melee attack and defense, as well as poison on those Nobblars. That may be pretty iffy for the poor little Dire Doggos. They get outstatsed pretty heavily here. And we're going to have to charge on in and charge right back out, as they suffered massive amounts of damage. Oh, both of those units suffered massive amounts of damage even attempting to charge those Boglars. And we're going to have to back this unit off. It's in critical binding, and it looks like it's going to begin melting away as well. You're going to have to try to heal it up and get it back in action. But, well, this army was always designed to expect losses of units. Or at the very least, always designed to expect losses of Dire Doggos. But yeah, this is one of the things with SFO. It's generally sort of every unit with enough buffs eventually becomes viable, no matter how late game it is, and even Nobblars are very, very strong if you build for them. And of course, the player can do so much better than the AI can, but even the AI, clearly, with plenty of the buffs there. Anyway, the last enemy lord is on field now, and we're going to go after him with Nozert together with one of his pet Vargulfs here. It is a Paymaster as well. I did very much enjoy the Paymasters when trying them out first time with the Man-Eaters. A lovely sort of generic army buffing lords, which I always enjoyed. And prefer, frankly, to our lords that don't really buff the army, like tyrants. Yeah, sure, they can fight, but you got another 19 units to consider, rather than just the one linchpin. Anyway, it looks like with that, the enemy ogre army will break. We suffered massive damage on lots of our doggos, which I guess is another argument to be made for getting those necros on the field, because there's just not enough healing coming in from Nozert alone to heal them out, whether it be from the lack of Master of the Dead or from only having one single cast of Invocation of Nehek available to us. Certainly something to think about, but anyway. Alright, there we go. Now, obviously, the doggos struggled a little bit, though. Damn, 519 kills and 43,000 damage. That's probably due to the inflated numbers of the HP on the various ogres and stuff, and the fact that they spent a long time chasing things down. But yeah, as I was saying, struggled a little bit. Obviously, this army was always going to be kind of gimmicky in the sense that the Vargulfs really do most of the work, because without Isabella's buffs, the Dire Dogs are too fragile to really do much, but they run around on the periphery and chase things down and prevent them from coming back in. We just desperately need a necro in here, because clearly they're so fragile that several of them begin melting away, and we're getting kind of ripped apart by Noblars and Mala, which is not too surprising, because once again, of their fragility, but it is something we gotta watch out for until we get heals. We're gonna occupy the place, and by the looks of it, I think Goldtooth is pretty much destroyed, in the sense that I don't really think he can deal with anything else here, and it doesn't look like he has any other armies, so sorry, Goldtooth. Hey, you'll be gone in a couple of turns. Enemies killed in battle as well. That was pretty much the entirety of his strength. We will go for, I guess, a gibbet here. Our vampiric corruption is already rising pretty nicely. Minus 25. You know what? Let's uncollect the income, at least for a few turns, until we fix that, and then move on. Alrighty, I believe that's all we have to pretty much do this particular turn, because we did everything last episode. Just want to double check on anything that we can build up. Let's just not spend too much time looking for stuff and upgrade whatever we see first. Karaz, you're gonna get a gibbet. In Desolation of Asgore, you can get a Lich Yard, and Forest of Shalon. Go for the gallows, go for the haunted mill, and then of course go for the nothing, because you're out of money. All right, Brian, you can at least have a gibbet, and that's it for all the stuff we can afford. All right, I'm going to assume that we can skip the rest of this, and that I did do, in fact, everything else at the end of last episode. My memory don't last several days, so yeah, we'll see. Recruit, aha! I did forget to move a recruiter, but that's fine. And yeah, zombies are free now in terms of upkeep for us. Wow, 10,000 gold. That seems like a decent chunk of change, but anyway. Zombies are free now, so if we really, really wanted to, obviously I don't want to deal with the insane amounts of admin, but we could just cover the world in zombies. We could pump out several armies full of zombies every single turn until, I mean, yeah, we can afford like hundreds of full zombie stacks, which would be appropriate for Vampiric Apocalypse, but it's just not something that we need to do. We've essentially won. Anyway, province secured, the vaults. Oh, yeah, these guys must have occupied... Yeah, they occupied Xerxil, which is a bit of an unfortunate aspect to it, because we wanted to occupy it ourselves, but it's all good. Constructor, Master Mason, ready for duty, technology research, good. Someone receives Plague, the Moot. Really? Man, I was hoping to avoid that. Well, you're gonna have to stick around, buddy. Everybody's getting plaguinated today. The research, corpse guard, and holy lodestone for a recruiter. No, recruiters don't need that. Alright, and you can, I guess, head to Zlatlan. We're just gonna head him back here where all the battle markers are, in case we can get something for ourselves. We do have a tech available to us. Natural strength isn't going to be super useful to us. In fact, it's going to... Skeleton warriors and skeleton spears. I was wondering whether the weapon strength would count the grave guard, but it looks like it's the recruit rank, but we don't really need it because we just raise dead most of the time with regards to them. Let's see. We could do the income from vengeful spirit buildings, although it's very little, admittedly. I was gonna go through this. You know what? Let's get leader of the pack for the missile resistance for the dire dogs, but frankly, they could really use melee defense, which we unfortunately don't have here. So we'll start with that. Alrighty. Next up, Manny. Let's go from the top again. We are rapidly running out of time, but we should still have a couple of moves left in us, and maybe another battle, and we shall see. And Manny is closing in on the Gashazar. Obviously, they have a super elite stack that they start with. This one doesn't count. And I'm sure Manny will have a heck of a fight. Kadon von Senkenhoff and Bone Daddy, you guys are both moving up northward. I guess we could go this way, but either way we'll go through Stone Mine Tower, so away you go. It's not like you need to stick around here, you'll both be fine. I probably should have built some stuff while it was cheaper, but all good. What we then want to do is Ludwig von Deal and Wilhelm. You guys need to destroy the remnants of the dwarfs before they come back to annoy us. Ludwig, you're going this way as well. March stance, please, and copyright infringement. I guess you were going to go steal some tech from the dwarfs. 12 turns. Alright. Alright, success, and Engelbert Skellen, you were going to join this army, and we may or may not bother building an actual army for him, as it might be a little bit late to get another one started. Alright, now I wanted to see whether these guys would be willing to trade Akendorf for Forest of Gloom, which we don't care for here, so let's give it a shot. 1 second. Otherwise it's gonna bother me. I mean, I guess we could just give all of this territory to these guys, but it's still gonna bother me. Plus, we got upkeep production at Matorka via the Salt for all armies faction-wide, so Forest of Gloom, if I can find it in here. 208, there we go, for Akendorf, and 82, and give us, I was about to say give us all your money, but that's barely any money. The rest of that I think is fine. We don't need to force them to fight anybody. If they want to fight somebody, they can fight somebody. Let's do that. Alright, enjoy your useless forest. And I feel bad for doing this to the AI a little bit, but it's not like they'll be using it for any actual useful purpose. Now, Kirakangazar and Matorka would also like to trade you, so for that's for Karak Buftar, and ooh, wait. We also want to get Verdanos from these guys. Alright, let's give him Karak Buftar then. Or Verdanos. Wait, it was Verdanos, right? Yes. Verdanos, if I can find it in here again. Not Varenka Hills. Oh, it was their territories. Verdanos for Karak Buftar. Like so. And you have no more money to give us, so just do that. I don't really care. Alright, there you go. Alrighty, now that secures this province completely, which means I was originally going to trade it away, but I'll deal with it later. We still want Kirakangazar and Matorka, and then the issue there is there's 2 of them, and we still need to want to trade for one, at the very least Matorka, so we'll see if they'll take Karakazor for it. Matorka, Karakazor. And yeah, there we go. And yes, I could do this every turn instead of all at once right now, just to get more money from them, but I don't think we care enough. And also, I usually would do this between the episodes, but I know that some people were just as bothered as I was by the fact that they had territory here, which really should have been ours. Anyway, Count Orlok, while you're here, though I am kind of worried about you because you're still suffering attrition from that plague, go ahead and take Fort Sol. And, oh. Huh, I wonder if they'll sally out. You know what, stay right there. If they want to try and sally out next turn, we'll give them the chance to do so. And I wonder if these Skaven are going to try to take this back. We'll see. It looks like they'll get chased down. Wait, is this their last army? Oh, it is their last army. Huh, okay. Nothing they can do. Wilmar, you have a battle. You have a date with destiny in the sense that I want to actually try your army out now that you have those zombie dragons, as well as your full supporting army. Both of you together are going to move towards the gates of Jar, where these guys are building up some stacks, nothing crazy, but should still be fun to fight. Recruiter, you're going around this way. Gonna try to get that Mortis engine, or those Mortis engines, I should say, if we can make another one appear. which we can, to Bathilda. Alright, perfect. And she needed 2, and that's what she's gonna get. Ooh. Speaking of Bathilda. Alright, I was going to do this, I was gonna say we should probably do this next episode, but this is Bathilda we're talking about, so I'm gonna say we're gonna do it right now. And Steel Tech. Alright, then you, close to feet, we'll see about that. Delete one of the skeleton spears, which have no real place here. And pop in your next Necro, which is Frederick Hopt Anderson. Yes? Yes, Witherer, good. And into Bathilda's army. And actually, before I forget, you don't have another Witherer, do you? No, another Corpse Stitcher. Okay, that's fine. Alright, and that's her 3rd Necro, and I want a 4th possibly, or possibly we'll do some Vampire. I wanted to have 2 flying vampires with her as well. But we do still want Friends in Dark Places, because it does buff the speed and melee defense of black coaches and Mortis engines. Let's see, you only have 1 point. I guess we could do Calming for the miscast base chance reduction. We're probably not going to use Gaze of Nagash. We can also do Ghastly Ambitions for the extra little bit of magic available. Why not? It's not like it's bad. And you have everything that's you need here, so Ghostly Ghoulish Tendencies, Ghastly Ambitions, and then keep moving on towards Ancient Binding Rituals and all that. Alrighty, and Bathilda herself has 2 points available to her, so let's give her Evasion. She already has Grave Ward. We could do Occam's Mind Razor, since nobody else can cast in this army. Yeah, why not? Let's do Occam's Mind Razor. She might need it to take Azhag on, although we got her a lot of best items because she is a legendary lord, after all. Anyway, this should be pretty fun. There's a lot of Colossal Squigs, a lot of single entities, which the Black Coaches are going to struggle against. Let's see how we do. Alrighty, here we go. Bathilda, one of her ancient enemies in the form, well, maybe not ancient, because Azhag isn't as old as the vampiress, but, in terms of channel time, I guess, of Azhag, the Slaughterer, and she's going to head directly towards him. Looks like Azhag will pop off a Gaze of Nagash. It's not going to do a crazy amount of damage to us, maybe 5% HP, maybe less, as we, well, actually surprisingly only have 23% spell resistance, but probably not all the projectiles hit. Either way, it doesn't matter over much, as Bathilda will ignore everything else to head directly for Azhag. We're not going to use the 2 Vargheists to help with the duel, as obviously she wants this fight for herself. That's probably going to take a little bit of time. Oh wow, actually maybe it's not going to take that long, as Azhag's already lost 30% of his HP. But anyway, in the meantime, the Vargheists will get off their, or Terrorgeist rather, will get off their Terrorgeist breath and will start annoying the enemy army, while Azhag rapidly drops to half of his HP. We're going to head on in with our Black Coaches, and we are going to keep them together here, because unlike what we usually do with them, which is riding around through the enemy army, there's just too many single entities to consider, and the Black Coaches are too much in danger of getting trapped. The enemy lord, Azhag, is down to maybe 15% of his HP, suffering greatly, even attempting to fight Bathilda. We'll get 1 more cast off by the looks of it. And it's a Gaze of Nagash, which will probably hit one of our fast movers, but that's alright. He attempts to escape, but that's not going to fly as he tumbles from the sky, as one of the Terrorgeist comes in just to get that Terrorgeist Shriek out, which is a minus 50% movement speed, or minus 50% speed on the enemy, and preventing it from escaping. Alright, the Black Coaches, of course, are being held up by the enemy single entities, the Trolls and the big ol' Colossal Squigs alike. We're going to drop a big old spell of our own on them, however, the Penumbral Pendulum, just to try to activate the Black Nimbus on all those coaches as much as we can. And let's see, it looks like that did it for us. 100% Black Nimbus intensity, so we're up to 48% ward save, and all the other abilities, Black Scythes and Unholy Vigor, are now active. So we're up to 147 speed with the bonus acceleration, 88 melee attack with the immunity to psychology removal from Dreaded, and up to to 205-ish. Oh, the poison is reducing it, but yeah, and up to 205 weapon strength. Too bad they're not immune to contact effects, which I find a little bit surprising. What contact effect would work against the Black Coach? Like, are you poisoning the coach itself? You're not poisoning the Cairnwraith driver, because that's impossible. I don't think even Nurgle's poison would work against the ghost. So, yeah, I do feel like these guys either need a tech or something that gives them immunity to contact effects. A little bit odd that they don't have it, to be perfectly frank. I can see why a Mortis engine would not have immunity to contact effects because it has a living necromancer on top of it, so he could get poisoned, and he's probably not super happy about it, even if the ghosts are the units that are keeping it aloft. The actual Mortis engine itself is a physical object with a living rider, whereas the Black Coach is not so much. There's really nothing here to poison or to whatever. Not that it matters over much, because there's still a pretty ridiculous unit when you get all the activations up and running. Anyway, this is what we were essentially very wary of, all of these blobs, little big old moving blobs of anger, the colossal squigs working together, which they certainly are, but it's not going to go so well for them. Bathilda has found more fights for herself, an enemy giant as well as a Black Orc big boss, who she's going to go for directly. Actually, she's probably going to go for both of them directly, now that she's in the middle of the fray. She is getting hit with arrow after arrow from some of the enemy arrow boys, but I really don't think that she cares about that all that much, especially with the presence of the Mortis engines nearby providing additional heals. Black Orc Big Boss is attempting to duel her, but has now lost about 50% of his HP. Orc Bootlicka. Well, I think Bathilda don't stand for no bootlickus, so she is going to obliterate him without too much trouble here. Seduction minus 30% melee attack as well drops his melee attack very, very low, and thus makes him more or less just as non-threatening as Azhag was. Some cool shots, although the trees are interfering a little bit. And it looks like the enemy's piles of squigs have at last begun to dwindle. In fact, the numbers of the entire enemy army have begun to dwindle. We'll give chase to at least the colossal squigs, but we don't really care if the infantry units come back, because the infantry units will simply get run down by the coaches. They're not the threat here. I do like the fact that we had to play this battle a little bit differently, and then and Death Star up the Black Coaches, which we usually don't do with them. Because otherwise these guys would have all been very, very dangerous. Oh, poor little colossal squig. Anyway, it looks like the enemy Black Orc Big Boss has been destroyed by Bathilda, and it looks like the Giant has similarly been defeated by Bathilda. That was a lot of HP to work through, but, well, that's just what we expect. Giant is done for. Oh. 147 HP, and... oh, there we go. Alrighty. Just too bad we can't raise the Giant immediately back up to fight for us, and I suppose the same for the colossal squigs. Anyway, there we are. The battle is ours, no problem at all. The damage was rather minimal. We did actually lose about 50% HP or something on some of the skeleton warrior or skeleton spears rather, but we just kept healing them, and they were just fine. They also didn't really contribute to the battle because they were all the way back here. I think they got attacked by one unit of pump wagons or something, and then one of the Terrorgeists simply moved in to deal with it, so no problem whatsoever. Yeah, another Screaming Banner. Not a bad pickup, and frankly, a solid banner to have in this particular army because it's a Death Star army. But anyway, very nice little fight. The single entity spam from Azhag was perhaps Azhag seeking to counter Bathilda, as she has now defeated him in a second campaign. But unfortunately for him, we saw how much of that effort of single entities against her Black Coaches worked out, which was not very well at all. and despite the fact that we couldn't cycle charge because it wasn't a pile of enemy units like we could against the Skaven, wherein we were just riding through their army, it still worked out pretty darn well. And if Bathilda managed to kill off Azhag, kill off a giant, kill off a Black Orc big boss, and defeat the single entities, and then still manages to rack up 769 kills and 115,000 damage. And that's why she's one of our legendary lords. We will obviously occupy the place like so. And leadership or size and spell resistance, we'll take it, we'll take it. She did get hit with a spell as she was moving towards the enemy lord, up to 48% spell resistance now. And frankly, with all of these necros, we could add 10 spell resistance per necro, so we could actually possibly max out her spell resistance with 4. Huh. That's not something I had considered doing, but it's certainly a pretty darn solid option. Anyway, well done, Bathilda, as always. Unfortunately, with that, we are out of time, and I'm going to have to call the episode here. Next time, Vlad is probably going to ignore most of this, and we'll start heading towards Altdorf. We don't really care about it, because the Empire has been, by and large, neutered by their wars, their never-ending wars against both the Fecundites and various other factions around. However, if we can claim Altdorf before the end of the campaign, that would be nice, just as a principle of the thing. Otherwise, we are still heading towards the... You didn't besiege us, did you? No, okay, good. We are still heading towards the book here. And the other book here at the White Tower of Hoeth, which we will use 2 different lords to do. And, ooh, hello. Alistar's going for Brienne. Well, isn't that annoying? I don't think we can reach him before he can reach it. Not that it's a big deal, but, well, I guess we could just summon some zombies there and see what he does, whether he reacts to it. Anyway, yeah, 2 more books, 1 more Nagash Azar, plus a few smattering of potential other battles to be had, so stay tuned for them. Don't forget to leave those likes and comments below. All glory to the algorithm, and thanks for watching.